Welcome back. Let's take you back to Pretoria now. That's because South Africa and Finland are commemorating their bilateral relations today. They'll unveil the names of 7 Finnish anti-apartheid activists at the Wall of Names in Freedom Park. That's in Pretoria. One of those names is actually that of former Finnish President Martti Ahtisaari. SABC News reporter Khayelihle Khumalo is in the country's capital and joins us now live. And Khayelihle, help us place then this relationship that South Africa enjoys with Finland.
Well, absolutely. And quite a very important bilateral relation for South Africa. That this was one of the very key countries in really just waging that war against apartheid, but also for South Africa, one of the key pillars when you talk about anti-apartheid movement is around international solidarity. So truly a very remarkable day in terms of fortifying these bilateral ties, but also reflecting on the history, especially in the context of Southern Africa. As you know, that's one of the very key figures whose name will be inscribed. In fact, it's been inscribed already, but it's going to be unveiled. Is that of the former Finnish president, of course, that's Martti Ahtisaari. And of course, he was a very instrumental man in terms of liberation in Namibia. He was an ambassador in several countries here in Africa. But really to reflect on the significance of today, we're joined by the Finnish ambassador here in South Africa, Mr. Pekka Metso. So once again, Ambassador, quite an important day for South Africa and Finland. I mean, first and foremost, the significance of today in terms of reflecting on the very turbulent history here.
Thank you very much. I'm so happy to be here. I was just last week on the Finnish TV, YLE, and when they asked me how are the relations between our two countries, I said we are doing so greatly. And one of the issues that I took up was the peace mediation. And here we are. This is the cornerstone moment of really celebrating the long history of Finnish-South African peace mediation. And this will also continue in the future. So it's a very momentous moment. I'm truly thrilled.
An absolutely momentous time, Ambassador, but I would imagine that, you know, with the geopolitical shift, you know, so much is happening in Ukraine, right in Africa, eastern parts of Congo and so forth, with all these issues. I would imagine that allies like South Africa and Finland, they really need each other in terms of overcoming these challenges, in terms of the security situation. I mean, I believe you share the longest border with Russia.
Yes, indeed. Your president recently made a State of the Nation speech, and I already reported my government. Here is a statesman by whom we can stand firmly. We share the same values with South Africa. So from north to south, all together, this partnership is really remarkable. And one can see already that President Martti Ahtisaari and President Ramaphosa were already earlier banking on this road with the same values, with the same goals of inclusion, equality, that our both societies today are based on.
And just once again, Ambassador, let's talk about the late President Ahtisaari. I mean, he was part of that Nelson Mandela's grouping with the elders, where you have all these statesmen really who cared about making sure that there's enormous change in the world, making sure that there's global peace, and really making sure that we see the goodwill, you know, the greater good for all countries. Let's talk about his values. He was a man of peace, a revered man. When you talk about the Namibian independence, a very key figure in terms of making sure that Windhoek is free.
Yes, indeed. I mean, Martti Ahtisaari stands us for all the values that we as a country stand for, because we want to mediate, we want the dialogue going on, and that's what his legacy really stands for. I remember always the first time when I went to Namibia and I showed my passport in the passport control, and the person just stood up and put his hand on his forehead and said, Martti Ahtisaari. So that's how his name delivers.
Just before I let you go, Ambassador, South Africa, Finland, we saw with the recent state visits by former President Niinisto, and one of the most important remarks that were made by President Ramaphosa was Finland is South Africa's long-standing partner, whether you're talking about digital economy, issues around education, renewable energy, so a plethora of areas in terms of collaborations.
Exactly. You mentioned those three areas also in our tech cooperation that I said, besides of the peace mediation, are the cornerstones of our bilateral relationship. I would put it this way. You have the critical minerals, we have the critical technologies. Let's work together.
So there you go, mutually beneficial. Of course, Ambassador, thank you so much indeed. Of course, that's the Finnish ambassador here, Ambassador, of course, Metso, really talking about the significance of today. As you know, that the names of the Finnish, really, who played a very instrumental role in fighting against apartheid, they've been inscribed already, but there will be an official unveiling of those names. So with that, I end up back to you in studio.
Khayelihle, Khumalo, very important story indeed. Thanks for that. Khayelihle reporting live from Freedom Park in Pretoria.